Hi guys. So welcome to the first episode of the Being Blunt podcast. The name might be a work in progress, but we're definitely gonna be blunt. And this is just the brainchild of three of us just sitting together and not having much to do. So we just decided that we've been having some real conversations about life. So let's just record it and put it out, if for nothing else, but just as a memoir for the three of us. So I'm Devansh. This is Akshay, and we have joining in from London, Mr. Shaurya Puri.
Hey everyone.
And
Okay.
Um,
Guys, this is the point where we all say hi, Shaurya.
hi. Hi everyone.
okay.
I'll tell you that
yeah.
at least we are going to get at least two views on this. One is going to be my mom, one is going to be his mom. I'm not sure if you're going to send it over to your parents because I'm not sure how much we're going to roast you today.
Oh, yeah, right. Of course. That's not
But but but
it's
but
called
moving on.
being blunt for a certain theme and not being blunt on Shaurya. So let's
Yeah. At least
ignore
it's not
that
rolling
fact.
blunt.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
But in general,
Okay,
like
guys.
for our themes, for our theme, let's talk about the theme for our audience. So we are sort of three best friends inclining towards. We did a lot of brainstorming. We were more focused on talking about falling in love with the process of things and things in general, be it work, relationships, mindset, lifestyle, etc., whatever. So I think, like, without further ado, we should just dig in a bit, do a quick introduction of all of us, so our guests sort of know who we are, and then we can dive on to our theme for today that we are going to talk about, which I think is risks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, when just thinking about what should be the first thing we talk about, we just had this inclination of what is it that got us here in the first place in our respective lives. And I mean, the one common thing that definitely emerged was the fact that, we have taken more risks than most people at our particular age and in our particular situations would. Some of them paid off, some of them failed horribly. But regardless,
Wait,
all
but
of
we
them
should
have.
let's just tell everyone what we actually do first, so they know
Sure,
that
sure.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, they
Shaurya, do you want to
actually do
start?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so my name is Shaurya, and I went to the same school as these two motherfuckers, and we
I'm
did
going to bleep
science,
that out.
and I think we all took computer science, and but I came over after school. I came to London for my undergrad, and I finished my undergrad in computer science with AI, and now I'm working as an analyst at UBS, which is a bulge bracket investment bank. So yeah, I think that's me in a nutshell so far. And I'm also awfully very active on social media, so follow me if you guys want to.
Akshay, you want to go next?
Yeah. So, hi guys, I'm Akshay and I'm here with Devansh, who's with me, the co founder of the Healthy Company. And we started back off in 2018, but our startup has really taken off in the past couple of months with us raising our first institutional round. And we have really taken up pace here. Thanks, Shaurya, for that crazy mimic. But yes, that's where we are. And that's what's going to be the base of this podcast, right? Up to
Yeah,
you,
guys.
man.
So, yeah, I'm Devansh. Again, known both of these from school. And what you see behind us is just the office of the Healthy Company. And yeah, just sorry, yeah. So just to get some clarity, essentially, all of us went to the same school together. That's when we became friends. And post that, I think Shaurya moved to London for his undergrad. The two of us continued to stay here, but in different colleges. So we just needed sort of an excuse to stay more in touch. So we started this project, and that's where we are with the Healthy Company. And yeah, there have been some more things along the way, right? I've tried to prepare for IMs and all of that. But ultimately, I mean, what we really want to talk about today is, I mean, how particularly are you more inclined towards success if you're more inclined towards risk in the contemporary world, right? And in saying that, I don't think any of us intend to sort of portray that we have achieved any amount of success. I don't think any of us believes that. However,
Yeah.
what we definitely want to put out is sort of the mindset that has allowed us to achieve whatever little that we have, and that is what we're trying to communicate, and that's why we are starting. So I think, Shaurya, do you have any opening thoughts on the concept of risk and how it's commonly looked at, etc.?
Oh, I think in general, when I speak to people, when I think first of all, I think the problem with a lot of people is like when you talk to them, they see your little success, and then they want that little success, and then they come up to you as if like I want to do the exact same thing that you did. I think first
Yeah.
of all, every life story is different, so every person should kind of understand that your life journey will be completely different to mine, because everyone comes up with like different situations, so you have to end up taking like different risks. But risk in general, I think, is like depends what sort of risk we're talking about here, right? There's a risk of life, there's a risk of making a decision in terms of I want to buy this particular bread, or like any like simple decisions in life. Every decision is a risk making decision at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I think my idea in terms of like risk from here would kind of be like allowing people to sort of understand and being able to differentiate what are the risks that would actually define their pathway, instead of the kind of risks that would not really define anything, like they have nothing to lose by taking that risk. At the end of the day, I think it just depends on the risk tolerance of every person, to be fair. So I think that's something that we need to kind of we should dig a bit deep on. What do you think?
Definitely. I mean, so one thing that you really touched upon there is sort of the cost associated with any risk, right? So the way I would define risk is if you have something to lose, point blank.
Hmm.
That is the definition of
Hmm.
risk. If you do not have anything to lose, you aren't risking anything. And
True.
in that, I mean, I think I differ from Shaurya on the view that I think Shaurya comes in more from, we should analyze and calculate a lot of risks and everything, and some are stupid, some are great, and having more of an analytical mindset. I am very emotionally driven in the sense I have only one key objective, that is do not die, essentially, right? So as long as I can take a risk and the cost does not involve death, I am fine to some extent with that, right? And
Yeah.
we are even
So
we are hardwired to avoid risk, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
Akshay was saying something.
that was the exact motivation when we all went rock climbing, and the risk associated was literally not
I saw the
dying.
pictures.
That
I
the
saw
risk
the
literally associated
pictures.
was not dying. And one moment, this fucker took off the rope also and went rock climbing, and I was literally shook by that. This is not happening. This is a risk. Yeah, this is a line I'm not gonna cross ever.
No way. So wait. So I saw the pictures for the rock climbing pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you this. What was going on? Because I
The
know.
only good thing in Faridabad, to be very honest, man.
Well, I think so. I know that you both are scared of a few things. Akshay, especially, I know has a couple fears when it comes to. Akshay is actually
Yeah,
very adventurous,
but
but
I'm
there's this side to him which
very
is
much
also
scared of a
very,
lot of things.
yeah. So I
I'm
actually
scared
wanted
of
to ask
heights.
both of
The
you.
first thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask both of you actually. What was going through your mind when, like, right before you were climbing that rock or mountain or whatever you were climbing? Each one of you.
I think the scariest part was driving up to that place because the roads were very, very, very messed up. So this good guy picked up his Porsche to drive on a road which is not even 1 meter apart. And you're driving through villages, you're driving through uphill, downhill rocks, and we're actually scared up until that point where we reached the rocks to climb. And we were
Hmm.
actually thinking we might as well just return back, but that was a whole adventure we needed throughout the day. The driving through that amazing
Right.
rocks.
Just to add on to that, but
And
to the
it's
specific thing
just adding to that a little bit. Sorry, I think just sitting in a car with Devansh is also a very risky decision, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. Last
Especially
time I had
when
with
he's
Devansh,
when he's down a couple old monks.
yeah,
fake news, guys,
Old
fake news.
monk. By the way, old monk is a very popular whiskey for those
It's
of
a
them who
beverage.
don't
It's a
know.
beverage.
It's a
We do not drink and drive. We do
Yeah,
not
right.
commit any crimes under the law, either three of us, okay?
you guys should see
Yeah.
Shaurya on an old monk. You won't ever recognize him. The straight
Good.
face.
Shaurya on a Santra.
He was what do you go? He did 20 push-ups in a McDonald's
Yeah.
with on old monk.
Yeah.
Okay,
But guys,
sorry. That's
yeah, I
Devansh.
think
Yeah.
the
Go on.
specific thing that Shaurya you were asking, right? What was going on in your head, right? For me, it's very clear what was going on. So what happens is you go there, right? They make you do some drills. and then you go for a climb, before which one of the instructors shows you a climb. So that guy literally just starts climbing and he makes it look effortless, but you know it's not, right? This guy's been doing it for years. One of them was the national climber of India, right? One of the instructors there. And for me, it was a very personal experience in the sense that, as you guys know, I've always been a very fat kid, right? I was 130 kilos.
Not a lot of people know this, by the way.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So
But yeah.
just to give you some
I'll
context.
I'll add a picture of him somewhere over here on the video later
Okay.
of him of his
Okay,
fat
guys,
face.
yeah, now that you've seen it, so for some context, I was 130 kilos at one point, right? As a child, I was never physically gifted, and to some extent, I was even physically handicapped in that sense, right? Even simple things like climbing a tree or climbing over a wall was something that I'd never do, and even if I do, I'd miserably fail. So what that does to you is that sort of gives you an internal messaging that, you know, anything that is physically challenging is not your cup of tea, is not something that you can do. That is typically the messaging and the story you keep on telling yourself, which keeps on getting reinforced. So for me, that first climb, right? So after that, we did 4 climbs in total. But that first climb was more than a physical challenge. It became a mental challenge that I had to break, that I can do this in the first place, right? And that was the risk I took, right? So there were 2 levels of risk. Obviously, one is the risk of injury, physical damage. But the larger risk that I took was, if I did it and I failed again, would I just reiterate my same story that I keep on telling myself that, you know, I cannot do anything physically? But that's the payoff of risk, right? So risk, there is loss, but the payoff is often a lot larger than the loss. So because I was able to do that first climb, that motivated me for the next 3 climbs. And once I was able to get the mental blockade out of my head, the mental risk, I had won the risk game mentally, right? Then the physical challenge did not seem like a challenge at all. So I think that is also one of the key things associated with risk, that typically what happens is, physically in the contemporary world that we live, there aren't a lot of physical risk associated, right? There isn't a lion coming to eat you like our ancestors, right? You know, let's say 10,000 years back. So there isn't a lion coming to eat you, or there aren't other people hunting you. So all of the risks associated are more mental in nature. These are just mental games you play with yourself. And if you win those, that is the payoff of risk, that you tell yourself a better story about yourself, and that in itself is priceless.
Yeah.
True,
Well,
true.
that sounds, yeah, that's actually very true. I mean, I think, I mean, I could really relate when you said, that you used to feel like, you can't do all of these things when you are when we used to be fat, because I used to be the same place as where you were, and now suddenly you can do all of these things, like I really want to do skydiving, and I was actually going to do skydive. I was going to go skydiving this birthday in October, but I couldn't because of COVID. But I know this, that I will do it, even though I know that when I'll be like over there about to climb, I will be like shit scared. But that's something that I've signed up for myself. I mentally prepared myself that, what, this
The
is going to
mindset,
be.
yeah. Ultimately, you're
Yeah,
preparing your mind, not your physical
exactly,
strength. Yeah.
exactly,
Because same
exactly.
thing, because I was actually very scared, no? Where in he was talking about he doing rock climbing and he has lost weight. There's a risk associated. But the thing here is I have put on weight. So my point was कि anyway mindset wise I was pretty far set only कि I put on weight, I'll do maximum 1 climb. But to be very honest, when I saw the instructor, and even if any climb was done before me by Devansh, na, it was actually easy for me to conquer that climb because I could relate कि if these guys can do it, even if I put on some weight, I could do it as well. मतलब, I could easily do 2.5 climbs. Half climb is basically I fell down a little bit too quickly, but that was a good mental achievement for me as well, because I know the next time I'm going, I'm at least doing 3-4 climbs there.
And you know, just to add on to his experience, I'll just tell you one small observation. Like mentally, right? Mentally, the story he was telling himself was, obviously I've gained weight. Maybe I'm not as fit as I used to be. And that was the story he was telling himself. So I will not be able to do. So even when we got the harnesses, right? The freaking calipers and the belts that you wear, where the safety rope is essentially tied in.
Yeah.
At that point, his mind started playing these games wherein his first thought was, yeah, I won't be able to fit in the harness. I won't be able to fit in the shoes.
Yeah.
This is too tight for me. This is to the point the belt is not going above sort of, my waist bone, which is where it's supposed to go. So that's the first point. His mind started playing those games with him. It went on eventually, right? There was no physical challenge, but the mental story that he told himself. And which is why, just before going there, he had already had a small victory in the sense that yes, the harness was definitely fitting him. It was a very, very small victory. But then he saw the instructor do it. Then he saw me do it, right? And then that is what motivated him, and he did that climb in the first trial itself. So again, it's a lot more about the mentality of it than the physicality of it.
Literally how you set your environment, how you set your mind. That is it. It's nothing physical, nothing at all.
That's actually a very good point to ask you this question. Rock climbing is fine. It's a very good example that we were able to, talk about. But just taking that metaphor into a bit of a reality scenario, real life scenario. So when you guys did your startup, like rock climbing is fine. 10 people come in a day, and 8 of them are actually able to climb that shit. But when you did your startup, right, it's like so many startups out there, and not all of them really end up with a fund, and you basically convince. So for anyone, like an investor is like just a random person you don't know, you're not related to. So you are convincing a random person to believe in 2 random people starting a random company with random products or a random idea, with shitloads of money, right? That's a lot of randomness in one sentence. So my point is, like, when you see like 10 startups coming along, and then 8 of them failing and 2 of them actually coming through, what motivated you then? Like at that time, you didn't really have 2-3 people climbing the same mountain up. You could, or there was a higher chance that you would fail. Like you were basically seeing people fail. Then what motivated you at that point, like that you should keep going or you should not stop, that you will be a success? And how did you treat your mind at that point of time?
Do you want to take this?
No, I'm going to go next. Yeah.
ठीक है. So I'll basically tell you essentially, you're very right in that sense that, now obviously you've raised a VC fund, we're venture capital funded, whatever. Now it's relatively easier to take those risks day in and day out, which we still have to. Every day it's a new battleground. We have to take some of the other risks. But now the reason it's easier is because we have other people's validation in that sense, right? So ultimately, right, even biologically, think of it, even a relationship is a risk. The cost of love is loss. So even a relationship is a risk because what you're risking is either getting validated or not getting validated by the other person.
True.
So
No. My
that
question is pre-funding. So
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
a year
Exactly.
ago.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. No?
Exactly.
Before pre-funding, there was no validation, right? That was the risk.
Oh
we
yeah,
played.
okay, cool, makes
So
sense.
before VC funding, that is when sort of, there are the real risk reward calculations that you do. And, here's my 2 cents on any risk reward calculation, right? You may find 10 formulas, whatever. But ultimately, right, the failure rate of any startup is 99%, right? Even past the 1% who make it, within those 1%, 90% of those fail within the next 5 odd years, right? So if you do the math, right, if you do any sort of a risk reward calculation, no matter what model you apply, it's not a very confidence building proposition. However, at that point, what really motivates you is, I just want to do this. I want to experiment with this. My really thing in life has been just experimentation, right? And for me, the way I've wired myself is, okay, what is the worst that can happen, right? If we do this startup, if we take the plunge, am I going to die? No, right? If it fails, right, am I going to die? No. Will I have a roof over my head? Yes, right? Fortunately, I live with my parents, right, and they've earned a livelihood for themselves, right? So even if the worst thing that could possibly happen, which is it all going up in flames, even if that happens, I am still in the top 1% of the privileged population around the world. If you compare it to, let's say, sub-Saharan Africa, or even the impoverished regions of India, I am already very, very, very privileged in that sense, right? So which is why that is the sort of analysis that I have, that anyone I think should really have when considering any decision. That what is the ultimate, let's just take the worst case. If you can live through the worst case, if you're not dying through the worst case, it's a good proposition to take, essentially. So that is what went into my personal mindset. I'm not sure about Akshay.
No, building on to that, so I'd like to share one of the personal anecdotes with me. So I'm not sure if you both also know about this. So back in 2019, so this is at least what, 12 months before we raised our round? Yeah, 12 months before we raised our round. So we had tons of placement companies come into a college, but I had zero time to prepare for any of the companies' interviews, be it any of the coding competitive codings or anything. And because all of my time was obviously going into the healthy company, but the challenge I faced there was every one of my close friends was slowly and steadily starting to get placed in really reputed companies. For example, you both already, either Shaur was placed at UBS, Devansh was there at Goldman Sachs. So I have a couple of friends who were there at Make My Trip, Zomato, Oyo, but I had zero time to prepare for any of these. And the only thing which kept me going forward with the healthy company, because I was very close, this close to giving up on both of them, to giving up on the idea of either running the company with Devansh or giving up the idea on studying for these tests, because I had a decent backup in place, but nothing to actually fall back upon. And that's the only thing which kept me going, was that at the end of the day, I'm working here with my best friend. I'm managing and running a company which I love to the bottom of my heart, but I'm not making any money doing so. We were profitable, touch wood, not making any money doing so. But that was the only thing. I'd not just wake up one day with the mindset ki, okay, all right, I'm not going to study for all these tests. I'm just going to prepare for the healthy company. But over time, as a natural process, right? As a natural process, I was so much deep into the healthy company. I was so much deep into the process of working at my own company. I had never bothered with these tests. And eventually, 10 months post making that decision, 10 months post that process, we were able to raise that institutional round. We got some validation, and finally from our whole what do you call it, relatives, parents, etc., we got that validation then. But yeah, that was the point key. That was the mindset I had to eventually accumulate over a period of time, to not give a fuck about other things in my mind which mattered actually very less on my priority scale.
I think I'll just add one final thought to this that I just realized while Akshay was speaking. That I just realized, all of this external validation came in at what, like just a couple of months back.
Yeah.
Right. But even before this, the sort of things that we have given up, right? So again, some context. So I got selected into IIM Ahmedabad for an MBA program there, right? And again, as he said, he was placed at multiple companies. Akshay was placed at multiple companies, and I was placed at Goldman Sachs before this. And there was a real cost, right? The opportunity cost, essentially, right? The opportunity cost that we are going to give up, that we can do these other things versus doing this. That is the real cost that most people are talking about in our contemporary times when we talk about risk, right? And I think one thing that really resonated on a personal level is the external validation, actually came in a lot later on our priority list.
Yeah.
Because even before all of that, we had still given up all of this, right? I think it was primarily A, it was intrinsic, but B, it was also, for me personally, it was also because of the other person, right? I could also see sort of the sacrifice that the other person was also making, right? And that motivated me that, yes, why not, right?
Yeah.
Why should we not go all in, right? And again, see, we are only 21, 22, 23. We are fairly young. And again, ties just back to, we're not going to die even if it fails. So I mean, that's just the thought process that I personally have.
We're not going to die as long as we don't blow off all investors' money. Else I am not. I don't have any idea what's going to go wrong.
No,
yeah.
but I think
You do tell us about UBS. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about UBS. What's gotten motivated into you? Because I think you, after completing engineering, you turned a little bit more towards investment banking. So how's that like?
So basically, you both know me, right? And I've always been a very confused kid. Like I don't know what I really wanted to do. I've never known this shit. And I think even today, I think that's just been my mindset throughout. I really don't know what to do. A lot of people, like, they come up to me and they're like, "Bro, I don't know what to do." I was like, "That's perfect. You shouldn't know what to do." That's like my way of things. For me, like Devansh mentioned earlier, he said you need to analyze, you need to see if you are in the position to take that kind of risk. right? So when I took science, I think when I back in school, I had no interest in physics. Okay, I had completely no interest in chemistry. I only took it solely because I wanted to do computer science, and that I think for me was fun. So half of the time I was outside of the class, not attending lectures in school and doing co-curricular stuff. Because I think for me, what I really liked doing was the hands-on stuff that I was doing whilst I was the president of the computer society back in school. And I think, going out for competitions and that sense of victory, I got that sense of victory from going into these competitions because I felt I was recognized over there than in
Mm.
the lecture itself. Like I thought that, I mean, it could be just me. I mean, I'm not saying anything against the Indian education system or anything. I have nothing against it. It's a pro for some people and it's a con for some people. But I think I kind of realized it then that the sense of victory that I get from doing hands-on work is more. So sort of, which is why I like going on to hackathons and stuff, because there's a sense of victory at the end of those 24-hour thing that you put in as a hard work. But yeah, for me, like the biggest risk was actually coming over to London after class 12. Because that time I think it was 2016, so Brexit was happening at that time, and it was
Mm.
completely chaotic. And my parents were coming up to me and they were like, "Are you sure? Everyone is saying, why are you sending him to the UK? He won't get a job. Brexit is happening, and all that kind of stuff." And I was like, "No, look, I really want to go there. I really want to study. I like the curriculum over there. I like the way they teach, and I really want to go there." And then my parents were like, "Okay, fine." And it was a big investment, right? It's a massive investment to send your kid to abroad as an
Yeah,
international
yeah, of
student.
course.
Because
Yeah.
at
And you were
my
doing a couple of part-time jobs also, right? Back when you
yeah,
started.
I did. I did, yeah. So initially, when I started off, I think in the second term, so we have like three terms over here. And term one, I didn't really do much, and then I came back home during like for Christmas and New Year's. But
Mm.
then term two, I did a bit of some part-time work for the experience and for the CV, for the grind. And but then I kind of realized that it was affecting my schoolwork. So then I let go of it, and then I came back home over the summer. And then I didn't really have much to do that like first year summer. So I decided that what, actually I'll still do something. So I did like a small pet project by myself of creating a virtual maps thing for the university. So I was constantly doing something because the sense of achievement, I think that was kind of moving for me. So even though, like I said, I didn't know what to do, so I was just taking. So I had the biggest risk for me was to come to the UK to study, with all that kind of like a monetary baggage in my head that my parents have put on me to study, and I had to make something off of it. That's all I knew. So I was constantly doing something or the other to prove my point to myself, not to anyone, not to my parents, not to the whole world, just to myself, that that risk was worth it. So that was what was going on for me mentally. And then eventually I came into second year, and there was this, like, I really have this thought of I wanted to be financially independent ASAP, right? So I did a placement year program. And the placement year program is that when you come into your second year, you start looking for a year into like a company in a good firm or whatever, and then you work with them on your third year, and then fourth year you come back to study. And hopefully, if you performed well in a company, they give you a full-time offer. So I did a placement year with UBS. Looking for a placement year position in second year was a whole new story. I applied, I think, to like 35 companies, and I interviewed with my first interview was with IBM. I got rejected. Second was with Expedia. I got rejected. Third one was with Bank of America Merrill Lynch. I got rejected. So after like three times of getting rejected, and this interview is like assessment center, so like the final stage. So you go through all these stages in like 2 months with each company, and then at the end of the day, when you're so close to just getting an offer after that last stage, I got rejected, and that was really putting off. By I think the second or third rejection, I was like, "Am I? Was my decision?" You start questioning your decision.
Self
I was
doubt.
like, "Yeah, exactly, self doubt." And then I think at that point of time, I spoke to you both, and you sent me like a bunch of videos. I think it was Gary V.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was Gary V. What to
it
do
was
after
Gary V.
graduation.
Or
Guys, check that out.
Yeah,
Whoever hasn't watched it, Gary V. What to do after
yeah,
graduation. That is the best shit you
yes,
can see on the
exactly.
internet.
Exactly. So I saw that video and I was like, you know what? It's not over yet. Like it's not done yet. So I had that thought, and then luckily I got another interview. I got it from UBS, and I was like, you know what? Actually, like I am gonna go for it. Like this time, every time I went into the interview with the stress of underperforming, self-doubting myself. This time I went in with the thought of like, you know what? uh, I've already taken the biggest risk of my life. And even if I don't get this job, who cares? I'll do something or the other. I'll complete my education. I'll reapply again next year. Or whatever happens, who cares? Like, who cares what's going to happen? And then when I went in with that mindset, um, I was able to just be calm, be myself. And the next day I got a call in the morning. I remember clearly I was sleeping and I got a call from the recruiter, and she told me that I had gotten the place. And I was like, "Who's this?" Sorry, because I was half asleep, right? And then she was like, "Shaurya, are you asleep? Because if you are, then I want you to wake up to hear this properly." And then I woke up and everything. So then there was like happy days, and then since then I've been financially independent, and everything comes out like all worth it. But this is
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
right? This is me, and now I completed my placement year. At the end of it, I also did a summer analyst at Deutsche Bank for 2 months, and both the companies offered me a full-time offer, and I chose UBS because their offer was stronger. And now I'm working for then I'm
Financially, you mean
working,
stronger.
yeah, financially, and I think benefits wise also, and in terms of recognition, I think UBS is doing quite good as well compared to Deutsche.
No, no, got it,
Uh,
got it. I think there's a couple of very interesting things that you said there, right? That I'd like to touch upon. So number
okay,
one is the recent one, the Gary V video and whatever. But when
yeah,
you finally went into UBS with a sense of detachment, ki,
yeah,
okay, even if I get in, it's fine. Even if I not, it's fine. It's
Hmm.
not the end of the world. I am
yeah,
not going to die.
You're not
That's
going to die.
yeah,
that's what I like to call like a gaming mindset. It's almost
yeah,
like a game you're playing,
yeah,
right? So ninth, 10th, 11th, we're playing soccer in our colonies, right? Everyone used to play either
mm,
football,
mm,
badminton, basketball, whatever, with your colony friends. What was our
mm,
mindset then? Okay, you'll go in 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. You'll play. While you're playing,
yeah,
you'll play to win. You'll be in the game.
yeah,
But
yeah,
once 9 p.m. is over, whether you win or whether you lose, even if you lose,
yeah,
koi nahi yaar, tomorrow's a new game. We'll come back tomorrow.
yeah,
We'll try and play
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
That is
yeah,
essentially
yeah,
like a game mindset, right? That is very,
exactly,
very important to have. And that is sort of
exactly.
similar to also what Gary was referring to in that video, wherein he
Mm,
said that, you guys are fucking young. You're 21, 22, 23. And this is the
yeah,
point where you have a massive upside with limited
yeah,
downside. Because you're
yep,
very young, you can do anything for the next 5, 8, 10 years of your life and still be at 30 and still start over from nothing,
yeah,
and you'll still be young, right? So
yeah.
that is again, I think, what he was going on in that video was this game mindset, that when you're playing the game, play to win whatever game you're
Yep,
playing, whether you're going for those hackathons back in 11th, 12th grade, whether you're playing the placement game, whether we're playing the startup game, whatever. When we are
yeah,
playing the game, we play to the
To
best
win.
of our ability to win. But at the
yeah,
end of the day, there should be a realization, a sense of detachment, that okay, it is ultimately a game. It doesn't define me, my worth, or my life at the end of the
yeah.
day. I think that is
Just a
what the
side note,
realization.
by the way.
Yeah.
Just a side note for all the people who are watching this video. We'll put a description down below of the link that Devansh is mentioning, the Gary Vee video that we watched.
Yeah, credit where
So you
credit is due.
definitely look that. And for all the people who are watching on Spotify or like other podcast streaming services or whatever, go to our YouTube, find this video, subscribe to us. Don't forget to like, comment, share,
Wow,
whatever
clickbait.
share you want to do, and then look at the
I think
description
this
and
line was due Shora in front of the video, not in
Yeah,
the middle of the video.
वो होता है ना,
no,
वो
just in
what's
the
the
middle, just a reminder in the middle of the video,
I'm not even
that
sure if
like
anybody else still looking to hear.
sorry guys,
No
we aren't
one.
so
YouTubers, we can't do the like, share, subscribe, comment, press the bell
It's
icon. We can
it's
do
kind of
that.
like I think it's a good of like a breakout a little bit, in the middle, because we've been like
Sure.
blabbering about risk and shit, and people are listening to it, trying to feed
I
it
can
in their
bet a
heads, and then
$100
just
there's
like,
nobody
share,
left
comment,
to
subscribe.
watch up until here in the middle. I can bet you
Sure, sure.
$100 right now.
No, obviously,
People
obviously,
have
but at the
gone
end
now.
of the video, but at the
But
end of the
yeah,
video.
so regardless, right? So now coming to my second point, which I think again, another thing that I picked up from what you said that I found really interesting. It was this thing about I don't know what I want to do, right? I don't know what I want to do, so I'm
I
doing
still
this.
don't know what I want to do, bro.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Neither do I, right? And I really think that
Okay.
this sort of thing, this sort of concept that's peddled on the internet, which is you have to find your true calling, you have to find your true passion, the thing you are best at, whatever, right? Many names. I really think it's just a bunch of bullshit, right?
Same.
Because okay, you have to find your passion. Okay, how do I find my passion? What
Yeah.
is my passion? What if I'm passionate about this for 3 years, then 3 years later I'm not as passionate about this? What if I'm passionate about something else 3 years later? Or what if 20 years later I'm not passionate about this and passionate about something else? So did that mean I wasn't passionate enough about this? Was this not my true calling? Right? So which is why what you said, that I really don't know what to do, which is I think the honest base state of like every human ever, right? Because it's a matter of okay, I don't know what I want to do, so let me experiment. The problem comes in when people don't want to experiment,
Don't want to
right?
experiment.
So
Yeah.
experiment more. So okay, I don't know what I want to do, I'm going to try 10 things. I'm going to try this today. Okay, I'm trying it for a month. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Okay, I'll try something else. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Right? And
Yeah.
experimentation is how you finally get to the thing that okay, at some point you feel, yeah, okay, this is something I see myself doing, I see myself liking. And
Yeah.
here's the thing: 3 years later, you might not end up liking it as much. You might not see yourself doing the same thing day in and day out, right?
Mm.
And that's why you got to constantly keep on experimenting, because it's
Yeah.
it's a process of discovering not only the world around you, but more importantly a process of discovering yourself. That is really
Correct.
important, right? Which is exactly what you are doing, right? And which is exactly what you were referring to as to how you approach things, wherein I don't know
Yeah.
what to do, so let me try this. If it
Yeah.
works out, yeah, right, again, let me play this game. If I like the game, I'm going to continue playing it. If 2 years
Yeah.
later I decide I don't want to play this game, I'm going to try some other game, right? And I think that the act of doing those things is passion, right? Passion is
Yeah.
not necessarily a thing or an activity. Passion is a moment in time wherein you are engrossed in something. There is, people call it flow state, ho gaya, whatever. But you're so engrossed in something you don't feel time pass by. That is passion,
Exactly.
to a
And I
sense.
think and I think a lot of people, when they're like, okay, experiment, do things, do everything, right?
Yeah.
Then the next question that people come up with, they're like, so what if I fail? Who cares what happens when you fail?
Nobody
Who
realizes
cares?
this part ki even if you fail, you'll have so many learnings to take
Yeah,
with you the next time you try. As Devansh
exactly.
mentioned, it's a game at the end of the day, you're playing from 6 to 9. Even if you
Yeah,
lose, you're going to play that game again tomorrow from 6 to 9.
yeah.
But nobody realizes this. Tomorrow, when you're playing this game, you'll be a little bit better at playing the game. And
Oh,
every
yeah,
time you
exactly.
win, every time you lose, nobody
Yeah,
cares it's winning or losing. You'll be a little bit better at what you're doing.
yeah.
I think
And for all
most
those
of
people, I think
giving up is basically when people give up on the part, experimenting part. I think that's what
exactly.
people refer to when they say we give up. You actually give given up on experimenting with other things. One or
Yeah,
two things failed for them in line, which is actually bad. I hope now this doesn't happen for everyone, but I genuinely hope this happens for everyone. Taki
yeah,
people realize you have to keep on experimenting. You don't
yeah,
just have to stop at experimenting. Even if one thing succeeds, that's not going to last. That's going to end
yeah,
soon in 1 week, 1 year, 5 years from now. You have to have the ability to experiment and just move on to the next thing. That is it.
yeah.
Again,
And I think
something very interesting that I just noticed, Akshay said about failure, right?
mm,
And people thinking, what if I fail? I really believe that internally, right, we don't care as much as to what will happen if I fail and what will I think. We really care from the social aspect.
Yeah.
What will others
exactly. That's what I was
look
trying
at
to
it,
Well
right?
insert.
said.
What
Yeah.
others
Public
will think.
failure,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right. Public failure versus private failure are two
How are
very
people
different
gonna think
things,
about
True.
me?
right?
Yeah,
And that is the problem. and that is the disconnect fundamentally, right? That creates this sort of irritation, that failing publicly is something that is very, very put up very high in terms of your on a pedestal in terms of your attention, right? See, yeah, right now I'll tell you what. Abhi, if I go home, let's say I'm not able to tie my shoelace properly, I am alone. I won't care too much about not being able to tie my shoelace, right? Or for example, I'm giving meditation a try. For example, if I'm not able to meditate correctly privately, I won't care too much about it. But if I'm on a stage and I have to give a speech, right? And there, if I fail, there, if I faint, there, if my legs are trembling, it will wreck the shit out of me. And the reason is we aren't looking inside ourselves. What we are doing is we are looking at ourselves from the eyes of the other, right? And there is one level beneath that, because intrinsically, everyone has to realize nobody has enough time in their life to give too many fucks about you. I have seen many people fail in front of me in stages while debating, right? I don't remember their name. I don't care about
it. Realize we failed in front of so many people on stage.
Yeah, 100%. I remember us, all three of us, doing that short play in Deepest Gurgaon, and we were laughed out of the stage because you were that bad.
Yeah,
exactly. But I think that's the whole reason. I think all three of us joined the drum sock, and you joined the dep sock also, no?
Yeah, debating.
But I think it's a good experience just for the fact because I didn't learn my best. I learned from my best plays. I actually learned from the plays which failed miserably on stage.
Yeah,
because that's the actual learning we're taking home, right? How public humiliation, even if it's humiliation, that's fine. Any day, as Devansh mentioned, nobody gives enough fucks about you, but they're gonna forget.
Yeah, that. The fucked up part is it is not even public humiliation. The point is you think it is public humiliation.
You think it's public humiliation
because you are imagining what the other person is imagining about you. You see how fucked up that is, right? You don't have a window exactly into their head. There is two levels of imagination happening. And in that, you are communicating, telling yourself a story. What if I get up on stage? What if I shake? What if I stutter? What if I miss a word? What if I do this?
But what if you not?
Yeah.
What if you not? People need to think, what if I don't stutter? What if I don't treble on stage or whatever? What if I and that I think mindset will come. And like you said, like rightly said, stop thinking about, stop viewing yourself from other people's eyes. View yourself from your eyes yourself.
Exactly. Define your victory for me.
That will change the whole thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a small anecdote from debating again. I was publicly, very shy, had sort of public speech issues again. For me, so what I started doing as a personal hack is I defined just the act of getting up on stage as a personal victory for me. I don't care if I speak shit. I don't care if I'm silent on stage for the next 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But just the act ki, today I've come up on stage. I define that as a personal victory for me, right? And and I have failed terribly many times, right? But again, it's just that subtle realization that no one has enough time or bandwidth in their life to think about you. If they have, then there is definitely something introspection that needs to happen there rather than in you, right? And I mean, again, I think this is also the sort of the mindset that I've seen in a lot of very, very great people. And that's where I've learned it from particularly, right? Not trying to say that, we are born with a great mindset or anything. We've all learned it, right? Humans in general are mimetic creatures, right? So what that means is we learn through mimesis, which is, looking at others doing a thing, and that's how we learn, right? More than language, it's mimesis. And we have learned and we have seen, whether you take Elon Musk, whether you take Bill Gates, whether you take even someone like Narendra Modi, regardless of political views, right? Or even Kanye West, or even Donald Trump for that matter, right? They captivate your imagination because they genuinely don't care what others are thinking, right?
Yeah.
You may hate Kanye's music, you may hate Trump's or Modi's politics, right? But you still look up to them in the sense because they really don't care what others are thinking about them. They do them, right? Like you do you, they do them, right? And that is the stuff leaders are really made of.
I think this is sort of like a good point to sort of dig a bit more deeper on, the term which is very rightly mentioned in corporates these days, even in projects. I think startups do this too. It's called risk management. And, a bit more of in what are intelligent risks, what are stupid risks. Like, for example, if I have if I have 10 pounds in my pocket, and if I'm going out to buy a 9 pound thing, and that 10 pound thing is the only thing I have for the whole week, then it's there's a bit of a stupid decision making in terms of taking risks. Like you can't just go out there and just take a risk just because oh, I saw Being Blunt and the guys asked me to take a risk, so I'm taking a risk, so that shouldn't happen. So we should I think what do you think about what's your opinion about risk management? So like stupid risks versus intelligent risks, so kind of differentiating between them, how you can manage which category a certain risk is going to go into.
I don't think
um,
anybody thinks that much into while taking a risk. Yeah, I can't demarcate between an intelligent risk or a stupid risk. As long as you both are clearly iterating, as long as you're not dying, all risks are worth taking. Yeah.
Yeah, also I think the specific thing that I think even he's pointing to is, see, it's very easy to analyze and to tell yourself a story in retrospection. Looking back, it's very
Yeah.
easy. Oh, I took that risk, that worked out, and then I took another risk, that also worked out, and hence I'm here, right?
Wait,
Thank
wait,
God
do
I
you
took those
even
risks.
think of wait, so when you look back, right, you only try to recall, because this is human nature, right? When you think of risks, you immediately start thinking of the risks that led to a good thing. You don't
100%.
really think about risks that went wrong, or maybe if you didn't take that risk, maybe you could have ended up somewhere else. Like for example, if I didn't take the risk of coming into the UK and I would have stayed in India only, then I think for me that's a successful risk, because now I'm at a good place. That's how I imagine myself right now.
Yeah,
And
exactly. If you've seen even Steve Jobs, the Stanford graduation speech,
Speech.
yes,
the
yeah,
number one line, it's like you can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? So for
yeah,
right now, us sitting here, it's very easy to say, take more risks because certain risks have really worked out for us, right? But we
yeah,
don't know what's the opportunity cost. What if this hadn't gone well, right? Maybe
mm,
we'd be here telling a different story. How do we know, right? And that is the problem with sort of risk management. That's my personal problem with that term, in the sense that it's very difficult for risks of real nature. There are business decisions and then there are real risks. In business
yeah,
decisions, yes, you can do risk management, you can do a SWOT analysis, financial analysis, market analysis, testing, experimentation. That's where that really works. But in the real risks, if you really don't know how it's going to end up either way, then it's just a matter of conviction and
yeah,
whether you're willing to bear the cost if the risk goes in the other way, whether you're willing to bear that cost. If you are willing to bear that cost, then it becomes a lot easier to sort of go in with the conviction, right? Because if that is
yeah.
not the case, and personally, right, if that is not the case, I think a good choice for a lot of people, if you can't bear the cost, would be again look towards different things, right? So it's not a blanket statement that whenever you see a risky thing and a non-risky thing, go for the more risky thing. This is the
Mhm.
analysis that should be involved, that what is the cost of this not working out. If I can bear that cost, then I think it's a definitely a good framework to sort of start taking more risks.
I think from what we can all sort of really extract from that is really two metrics. I think of for risk management in like real life, not from a business point of view, is the cost of it. How it will affect your current position and the position of everyone else around you. And
Around
I
you.
think the second one is, which I think is a bit more compared to cost, is the gut feeling, like you said. If your gut tells you that the taking this risk is worth it, then go for it. Because if you really don't, then I think you will spend the rest 10, 15, 20 years of your life thinking, well, what if I took that risk? For
Yeah,
instance,
that what if
if
question
I
is going
didn't
to
come
bother
here,
everyone else. Yeah,
for
Yeah,
instance, if I
you know
didn't come here, I would have questioned myself for 20 years wherever I
exactly.
was.
that famous
What if
study,
I came out?
that
Yeah.
famous study conducted by, I think, Princeton or I think John Hopkins, wherein they interviewed, I think, over 1,000 people on their deathbed, and sort of the one key theme that emerged is, I really don't regret my failures as much, but I really cherish the successes, right? And the only regrets that I have is I should have tried more.
Should have tried more.
I should have maybe, moved across the country. I should have proposed to that one girl or one guy or whoever that may be, right? And I think
Yeah.
these are sort of the conversation that needs to be more embedded in your head, wherein you're looking at yourself from that lens of that 60-year-old or that 80-year-old person. And would you really feel that shit, man, I should have taken that risk? If that is the case, that is a very high cost on your future 80-year-old self, to be in a very pathetic situation of thinking that shit, I should have done that. If I ever
Yeah.
have such a decision in my life, then I go all in. Then it's not even a conversation, not even a conversation, right? Because I would really be pathetic, and I would really be like a fragile human at 80 years old if I'm telling myself all of these stories about things I could have done, but I just didn't take the plunge, right?
Mhm.
And I mean,
Seriously, matlab, that's the whole point. If you are actually self-doubting anything or second thinking anything, just go ahead in time, look forward to your 60-year-old self, 80-year-old self, and don't
Yeah.
give them a chance to be regretful here. I believe the
Yeah.
exact line was, "Ki I didn't regret the things I did. I regret the things which I did not do. I could not do."
Yeah.
Just do it for your 60-year-old or 80-year-old self. Make them
Mhm.
peaceful enough. Just do whatever you have to live a peaceful life right now or 50 years in the future.
and I think just adding into it, like just introducing this theme of actually being in terms of tactical advice, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, philosophically, obviously we've had those discussions, we've given our anecdotes, but tactically you should be aware of the reality of the world that you live in. We live in a capitalistic world, right? And this is
Yeah.
again a disconnect that we as Indians have, because in our blood we are actually socialists, right? We are still socialists from the 1940s and 50s, right? That is in our blood, right? And that's what you also see in policies, whether, and not only policies, more importantly culture, right? I mean, we genuinely, like, there is always a sense of envy or a sense of negative emotion when someone else makes money. That's
Yeah.
still prevalent in the generation before us, in to some extent in ours. But coming back to my point, we live in a capitalistic world globally, right? And
Mhm.
the payoff in capitalism is not skills, it's risk, right?
Mhm.
So it's again very, again, on the internet, it's peddled like skills, build your skill, make more money, etc., etc. But if you look at the framework, skills are very, very important, but how you leverage those skills is through risk. How you leverage those skills is through ownership, accountability, right? That is the payoff in capitalistic market. So anything from like a career perspective, that is how risk makes a lot more sense, rather than
Yeah.
very famous quote by Mark Zuckerberg, which is often misquoted also. But the greatest risk is not taking any risk at all,
At
right?
all.
What he really meant
Yeah.
by that was not like stupid risk, go do this, go
Yeah.
jump off a building or anything, right? What he really meant is, in such a dynamic and quickly, rapidly changing world, right? If you aren't taking those small risks day in and day out, if you aren't adapting, and every adaptation is a risk. What if my
Correct.
previous version was better than the version I will adapt to? That is the risk
Yeah.
you are taking, right? So
Mhm.
you're taking these risks day in and day out, and that is the payoff in a capitalistic world like ours. That is how you
Yeah.
can actually have any amount of impact or success, whether it's
Mhm.
material wealth, whether it's social impact, whatever it is that you are looking for, right?
Mhm.
That's your personal call to make. But in to make any sort of impact, that is the risk that you need to take, right? You need to take some amount of risk of failing, and
Mhm.
that comes in whether it's through ownership, right? So ownership is equity, whether it's equity of a business or it's through code, right? Code is again another leverage, wherein you do something once and you risk and you put it out into the world. Or
To the
maybe
hands of
media.
millions of people, right?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
maybe media, right? For example, Shaurya, tomorrow you decide to start a music channel, you make your own music, right? The risk you're taking is the time. It's going to go the time and effort. Apart from that, you're risking getting judged by too many others, receiving hate comments, them hampering your mental health, etc., etc., right? You're taking many risks there. But again, the payoff is, tomorrow you can make one song in half an hour and maybe a million people see it. This was not possible pre the internet era, right? Which is why I say,
Yeah.
now in a capitalistic market, risk is leverage. And if you
Mhm.
aren't risking more and more things, you're missing out on that leverage, and you're just going to get left behind in your regular routine non leverage sort of skills, and your skills are just going to die out, or probably just going to get automated.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good point, that you need to leverage your skills to sort of,
Adapting to those skills, right? As the
yeah,
world changes, keep adapting to our
yeah,
surroundings, to a new skill set, to new people, everything.
Yeah, I think that's what I've noticed at, yeah, like even at my workplace, because the way, because I deal with people from all over the world.
Yeah.
I've spoken to people from Switzerland, from Russia, from India, Pune, Singapore, and the US as well. And
Mm.
I sort of see a complete change in attitude of people of how they deal with things. So if I, for example, I'm working on something, let's say Python programming language, right? And the other person does not know it. Someone in Pune who is like 40 or 50 years old, who's sort of like at an age where he kind of feels that, like, what's the point now? They're not really keen to learn and sort of expand more skills. But what they don't realize, I think, is that the age for learning never really stops, right? You have to continuously
Yeah.
learn and sort of broaden your skill set, so that because the more skills you have, uh, the more risks you can really take in your lifetime. So if I was a really bad, like if I right now, if I quit my job, I know that, okay, I can, take my guitar, go to some underground station and start playing it, and I will have something or the other out of it, right? So I think just having, I think you were really rightly mentioned, I think people should constantly learn and try and expand their skill set, because that's what at the end of the day they're going to leverage to sort of reduce their exposure to the kind of risks that they want to take
No,
in their
right,
life.
completely right. Yeah, matlab, that's why I always feel ki why generalization is way more important than specialization in any form or factor. The people
Hmm.
should learn more and more things, and instead of specializing into one, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying
Yeah,
generalization is so much better because you're able to
yeah,
leverage learnings from different things into other things, and
yeah.
that's why the risk of learning new things always overpowers the ultimatum you're getting. You're able to learn
Hmm.
new things plus use those learnings to maybe implement them in other ways, right? So
Yeah,
always इसलिए that's why I always feel कि generalization is that's why always important in specialization.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, no, makes sense. I mean,
There's a term for
I,
it, right? You call it jack of all trades,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
master of none.
jack of all trades.
Uh,
No, but here's the thing.
I'd
Here's the
rather
thing.
be a jack. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but here's the thing, right? I think like barring maybe just the medical profession, right?
Hmm.
Apart from that, I really think like specialization is like for insects, not for humans,
Hmm.
essentially, right? I mean, we as humans, right? We are evolved, and our biological system prompts us to sort of generalize, learn new things, be good at other things, right? Be good with our hands, for example. Earlier we were craftsmen, right? We were building tools to, let's say, hunt a tiger or an elephant, whatever, right? So that's why we are naturally inclined towards
Towards the
generalization.
average.
And the,
Yeah.
the, the reason it really went wrong is the introduction of and the structuring of the entire school system, right? It
Hmm.
right.
really changed around the 1940s and 50s during the Industrial Revolution. Before
Hmm.
it, actually, schools were places of genuine education because they were genuinely just interested and aligned towards giving you a wide range of skill sets rather than making you go into specific disciplines. What happened around industrialization is there were lots of factories, lots of machines, lots of different roles, and now you need people to do that one job really, really well. So what
Yeah.
happens then is you develop your school and the education system in a sense that it fits people into those specific rules and trains them for 10, 12, 14, 16 years of education to fit into that one particular niche, right? And it was
Hmm.
great. It worked up till the Industrial Revolution. That is why we have had so much progress, like more progress in the last 100 years than the 10,000 years before that, right? It worked. But now we have to realize that we have to again go back to our roots of being more generalized, because now automation is anyway taking up all of the industrialized jobs,
Correct.
machines, robots. We
Yeah.
are at that place, right? What is
Correct.
really
Correct.
valued now, right? Who are the largest stars that you see, right? It's whether it's pop stars, whether it's content creators in that sense, or whether it's Elon Musk who's just pushing avenues, and it's a lot more creative in that sense rather than being mechanically proficient, right?
Mhm.
Elon Musk is a great engineer, but he's not necessarily the best engineer. But what
Mhm.
he is, he's a creative genius in the sense he can apply first principles of engineering to, whether it's SpaceX or Tesla. He's a creative genius. He's an artist more than an
Mhm.
engineer in that sense, right?
So
And that,
do you think
yeah,
you can only afford generalization upon achieving specialization? Because
not
Not
really.
necessarily. Not.
let's say if Justin Bieber didn't really accomplish in the pop star space, right? Like now, if Justin Bieber tries to go into, let's say, R&B, for example, people would
Hmm.
still want to listen to it because he's specialized in the pop. I mean, to be fair, actually, yeah, now I understand your point. You kind of make sense. He hasn't really
No, no,
specialized in
even
pop.
on Justin Bieber,
He's not
I'll
the
tell you
best
what.
pop singer. He's a
No, no,
great pop
yeah, yeah.
singer. He's not a best pop singer.
Yeah.
A couple of things there. Number one, the the average generalist, right, is better than average specialist. Also,
Hmm.
the best generalists are better at a specific thing than an average specialist,
Hmm.
right? Just hear this carefully. The best generalists are actually more specialized and more better than the average specialist in that particular domain. And here's the
Hmm.
reason for that, right? Justin Bieber is actually a perfect example to prove my point, because you look at Justin Bieber, how he developed his talent in music. Again, that's debatable. You may like it, you may not like it, but he is a talented musician. But how he
Hmm.
developed that is he did not just play one instrument. You can see videos of 10-year, 9-year-old Bieber playing the piano, then the guitar, then the violin, etc. He's generalized at different instruments so he could pick that, okay, finally, vocals is the thing I'm going to go to. Which is why
Correct.
generalization again ties back to what we discussed about experimentation. He
Hmm.
experimented. Again, the most famous example of
Correct.
generalization is Roger Federer, right?
Correct.
That guy
Yeah.
tried football, basketball, tennis, a bunch of different
Yeah.
things, and did not really pick tennis until the time he was 18, right? By
Correct.
that time,
Correct.
most of the pro tennis players, they start with tennis at 4, and they've already played multiple tournaments, multiple leagues, won multiple leagues by the
Hmm.
time they get to 18.
Yeah.
Federer, on the other hand, he was just trying out different sports. But today he's a
Yeah.
legend, and he says it himself. All of the other sports that I played, they just, come together like a musical medley in that
Hmm.
sense. And
Hmm.
that's what uh, brings out my art, which is tennis in that case,
Hmm.
right? So there are neural connections our brain makes in different activities that ultimately
Hmm.
come out. For example, the best scientists someone researched were also good musicians in a particular study, right? They looked at all of the patent data and the
Hmm.
innovation data, and they found two trends. Number one, all of the highest performing scientists with the most number of patents, they had some hobby which was they were engaged in outside of work, whether it's music,
Hmm.
whether it's gardening, or anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
Secondly, the most innovative patents actually came in from scientists who had delved and specialized in multiple different things. So at that
Correct.
point, they have already become a generalist of these multiple different domains, and they were able to use this cross domain knowledge to sort of bring in
Hmm.
innovation in a specific field.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that completely. Do you have anything to say, Akshay?
No, no, no. I was actually carrying forward his point only, which he proved perfectly. 2 points
Yeah.
there. One, all the things which Devansh mentioned about Justin Bieber or Roger Federer also, literally
Yeah.
adding on to that, to exactly proving all of our points, why generalization is more important. Even if you excel at something, even if you're known for something, you should
Hmm.
be doing a lot of things apart from that, because ultimately you'll be able to accumulate a lot of the learnings out there. And
Correct.
secondly, why have you watched so many Justin Bieber videos? Why? Why? I flipped when he mentioned ki Justin Bieber videos when he was 10,
That's
14, 12. I flipped. Why has he watched so many Justin Bieber videos? I'm very uncomfortable right now, to be very honest.
that's my 2 a.m. guilty pleasure, guys. Full disclosure.
No,
No,
seriously.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I have
that's why
nothing
that's why
against.
I beat Devansh by 155 and I'll be working.
yeah. There were
I have
some
nothing
good videos.
against Justin Bieber, but
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
think
think I like few of the songs.
okay, so I think this is the perfect way to end the podcast. We should crop out the last bit where Shaura just said he likes his songs.
Yeah,
but
true. I think
Uh,
it's been like over 40, 45 minutes.
But it's a good time to end
yeah,
the podcast. I
I
genuinely
think.
hope if there's even one person who's watching till the end, I genuinely
Yeah.
hope this useful to him or her.
Yeah, guys,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think we just ended up going on a broad range of things. But if you look at it, it was all connected to the idea of taking more risks and
Yeah.
experimentation and fear of failure. Because again, the cost of risk is just failure, right?
Failure.
So I
Correct.
mean, genuinely, just don't take our word for it, right? Consider us
Mhm.
nobody, but just
Yeah.
look at the stories of people who inspire you, right? Whoever that may be, whether for you that's an entrepreneur or a sports person or a musician or
Or
a
a celebrity,
politician
anything.
or a celebrity, just look at their stories, right? And
Yeah.
you'll find moments of massive risk and massive conviction that they just had to push through, because that's what gets the non-linearity in life, right? These guys didn't go like a stable life or even just a small upward trajectory, which is how most lives go. The reason they are celebrities or the reason we look up to them is they had a non-linear exponential life, and those moments of exponent come in only from risk is the only
Yep.
thing that can lead to non-linearity in your life. So I mean, which is why just look at these stories, right? Don't take our word for it
Yep.
necessarily.
And I think, yeah, and I think it's not necessary. Like, always remember that, of course, you are taking risk, but there's no guarantee that the other side is always going to be green. Okay, so you
Yeah.
can, I think you can fail, but what you should remember is it's okay to fail. It's fine to fail. You don't have anyone to prove to. Just keep reminding yourself of that. Don't go into a self doubt. Stay self assured, and you'll be able to still leverage your skills and your resources and skills that you have together into taking more risks that would eventually at some point lead you to a greener side where the 60-year-old you would thank you for it and put a smile on his or her face.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and I
but
mean,
I
guys, like you're gonna die one day. I mean, just be very
Yeah,
cognizant of the
exactly.
fact that you are really going to die
Die
one
one
day.
day.
Whether it's
Yeah.
60, whether it's
Yeah.
80, you are going to die. That is the only irrefutable truth, right?
Yeah.
You are going to die. So why are
And
you?
I think Devansh, you
Yeah,
should
I
just
mean,
get this
you're
thing
just
tattooed,
giving
bro.
too much attention to yourself. Essentially, if you're
Devansh, you should
afraid of failure, right? I mean,
Devansh
either
should get
giving
this
too
thing
much
tattooed.
attention to yourself, you think too much of yourself, or you think too much of other people. Neither of which is a good place to be. The moment you realize
Yeah.
that ultimately this is all a game and you are going to die, right? That is what can truly free you up. That okay, even if you lose the games, again, there's going to be some games you will win, right? But the reward and the payoff
The
in those
payoffs
games
much
is
greater.
actually a lot larger than the risk, especially in our modern world, right? It was
Mhm.
a 10,000 BC and we take a risk and I go out hunting in the woods alone apart from my tribe, I'll fucking die. Which is why we are engineered to not take risks. But right now, that's not really the case, guys. So, I mean, I think that can be like a final sort of parting thought to, ponder
Yeah.
upon
Let's
for you guys.
let's try to end this podcast again.
We're gonna end it just like we started. Everybody's gonna say three, two, one, end.
Three,
Three,
two.
Two,
two,
one,
one.
off.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our first video. I'm guessing you guys are probably wondering where Akshay and Devansh are. Well, like we said, they're in a completely different time zone. I'm in London right now, and I'm editing the video that you've just finished watching. The reason behind this concluding video is so I can let you guys know that please comment down below what you would want us to create content about, what you would want us to be blunt about. Comment down below, reach out to us on our social media accounts, and we'd be more than happy to pursue that and get good content out to you guys. Till then, don't forget to subscribe, click on the bell icon, like this video, share it with your friends so we can reach out more and more people. But yeah, until then, yes, stay safe, stay blunt.